Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Float, Odyssey, Telegram, and Twitch. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is July 10th, 2022. This is episode 138 of the Workshop podcast. I got a great guest coming on tonight. I'm really excited. She goes by the apartment prepper. We'll call her AP for short as we go along. We'll bring her on in a minute. She's going to talk about big prepping in small spaces. But real quick, you know the routine. We'll get the announcements out of the way. Number one, this week, things are going to be the same, but they're going to be a little bit different. Let's put it that way. In the words of somebody way smarter than me. Thursday and Saturday. So Thursday, if it all goes well, I'm going to share my thoughts on the great big telecom outage that we had here in Alberta in Canada. It was interesting. Woke up 4 hours away from home and had to deal with that exact issue. So I'm going to share that. And my dad is here. Him and my mom both flew all the way across the country, flew for the first time in his 67 years on this planet. And I'm going to see if I can get him on live to talk about life in the 60s and the late 50s, growing up on a farm. I don't know. We're going to try. So we'll see. Help me out here, guys, and we'll get him on. Number two, do not forget the Canadian Coffee Company. I cannot believe how much you supported us this month. I got my very first statement, and I was really surprised. So thank you, guys. That is a way to bring a little more income into the workshop. As you guys know, I'm working this toward a full-time gig, and thank you very much. And the last thing is the patches. Just an update on the patches. I have the very first prototypes, about a half dozen of each on their way here. If they turn out as good as the photos look, then we will be launching the Patch of the Month Club real soon. So finally, today's tool. I don't know if you guys saw the videos recently of the guy pulling, I want to say it was in Toronto, where the car was engulfed and a guy beat out the window and hauled the guy out. Made me think of my love for fire extinguishers and, of course, the First Alert fire spray. That's the one I go to. You guys saw the video last winter with my 11-year-old girls, maybe 10-year-old girls at the time, using them to put fires out. So if you're interested, looking for a low risk, has a long expiration date, and the thing just works for cheap, check it out. Amazon links in the description. And that is that. Well, shout out to Martinson family. Hey, and Cabot Porter, how are you? And let me bring on my guest. For some reason, I wanted to hit remove. That would have been mad. You would have panicked, wouldn't you? Tim kicked me out. He's like, what am I doing wrong? So how are you, AP?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you. So for those in the workshop who don't know who Apartment Prepper is, do you want to introduce yourself? Where are you from? Your story,
Sure.
Maybe your first job in high school?
I'm Apartment Prepper, and I have an Instagram and a YouTube channel where I talk about apartment prepping, because that's where I'm at in my life right now. I am from all over. I was born in Australia, grew up in New Zealand, have spent years in the U.S., and first job in high school, Kmart.
Do you guys still have Kmart down there?
I don't know.
No.
I haven't seen one in a long time. That was in Washington State. So
did you guys have the blue light specials?
We did.
Yes.
Back in the day, yeah. And
I
had that was the early 80s. So I was wearing the really great, like, ugly brown polyester uniforms and stuff like that because I worked at the food stand. Yeah.
So where's your accent? You don't have an accent.
I don't. I paid a girl my lunch money the first couple months I was here to teach, for me to learn to speak like an American, because people made fun of me. And then Crocodile Dundee came out, and suddenly everyone wanted to know why I didn't have my accent anymore. So
that's
you wouldn't to lose them.
Everybody thought Australia was cool, right? People started bungee jumping and drinking Foster's beer. And
Crocodile Dundee totally changed America's view of Australians. So
Steve Irwin kept it going, right?
Oh, rest in peace, Steve. Rest in peace.
So have you been a prepper for a long time?
Yes and no. My mom was I call her a light prepper. She was always prepared for a few weeks. You know, we always had the one cupboard in the kitchen that had the candles and the extra can openers and the couple weeks of food and stuff like that. And then she always had plenty of just in case of storms. Okay. But it wasn't the hardcore, generators and things like that. So, and I started doing more about 10 years ago. and then upped it in 2020 when everything else happened, obviously, like a lot of people did.
Nothing big happened. What
am I talking about? I don't know.
I don't even remember the last 2 years. We're doing great. So
right.
Oh yeah. So she was your traditional, kept a stocked pantry and
yes,
looked out for you guys.
My mother was older too. So my mom had me when she was almost 40.
Okay.
So my mom was born in the 30s. So she grew up really old school. And but when I was a teenager, I rebelled against that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm not going to have anything to do with the kitchen. I'm not going to have anything to do. It's the 80s. I'm a free woman now, and all this other garbage. And I could kick myself for being so rebellious, and because I'm having to learn everything now.
Sure. But no excuse, but we all do it. I did the same thing. My dad, in my mind, I know I don't want to call him an idiot, but I felt like he was at that, when I was 16, 15, I knew everything. And then when I turned 25, I realized, geez, I better ask him,
Our parents know nothing until we're older, and suddenly we realize they knew a whole lot.
So she was born, you said, in the 30s?
She was born in 33.
So she, wouldn't really remember much of the Depression or any of it really, but she probably got the effects of it from her parents, hey?
Yeah, and she was born in Oklahoma, so it was Dust Bowl as well. So all of that had an effect. They were poor. You had like 8 people living in the shack, dirt floors, fighting with the tarantulas when you got into bed at night, that type of stuff. I've heard all the stories from her and my aunts and uncles. So yeah.
That's incredible. And what was, so if I know as teenagers, we don't always think, but what did she do that was like frugal or prepping related that you thought was cheesy at the time?
Just anything in the kitchen I thought was cheesy. I wanted nothing to do with that. Part of that was my father. My father was one of those old school women sorry, I'm petting my dog if y'all are wondering what I'm doing. He's over here wanting my attention.
Dogs here, trust me.
But my father was one of those women belong in the kitchen and nowhere else. And so I majorly rebelled against that. So anytime, my mom did the whole thing, the canning, homemade ice cream. She did it all. And I wanted nothing to do with it. And again, I could kick myself for that, but it is what it is, right?
That's okay. So did you eventually get into canning or no?
Well, funny story. I haven't started canning yet. I've been scared of it, and I know a lot has changed, but there's a story in my family. My grandmother actually blew off the tip of her little finger in a pressure canning accident in the 40s. And so it's sort of like we had this hanging over our family. It was like the story gets bigger and bigger as it goes along. And so it just, they had me horrified for most of my life. So I would like to start canning, but I still kind of have that in the back of my head, even though I know it's kind of, you have to respect the pressure canner.
Yes.
And I get that, but I still have a little bit of fear right back there because of that story. So, it made the newspaper in the town, so it was a big deal.
That's all. Okay. So I have been quoted on this show before of saying, I do not know anyone who has ever had an accident with a pressure canner. I always called it old wives' tales. But if you tell me it was in the newspaper, I believe
in the newspaper. Her and another woman. In fact, the other woman had, if I remember correctly, I think she lost her eye. And I know that sounds crazy, but I would have to go find, I haven't seen the article in years, but but I know for sure my grandma lost her.
If you ever find that article, send me a copy of it.
Where is it? Tip of her pinky.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Cabot Porter has a question for us here. Wants to know what's worse, the cold of Canada or tarantulas?
Tarantulas.
Now, yeah. You live in Utah now, right?
I have lived in Alaska, though.
Okay. So you know all about what I deal with up here then.
So I have lived in Alaska. But then again, I also like cold weather. I'm kind of weird. So I've lived in Texas, Oklahoma. I've lived all over, and I prefer cold weather. I do not like tarantulas. I do not like rattlesnakes, any like scorpions, any of those hot weather creatures. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll take a bear any day. I will. I'll take a bear any day over a scorpion.
At least you see a bear. You hear a bear coming. You see a bear coming. Tarantulas, rattlesnakes. Yeah, not my cup of tea. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Miserable. Oh, so. You said you've been prepping for about 10, or you kind of started about 10 years ago.
Yeah, for me, for seriously, I started about 10 years ago. Yeah.
What happened? Was that like kind of the 2008? And that'd be a little later now. Anything in particular that got you into it?
No, just I my mom was struggling a bit at the time
Hmm.
financially, and if I remember, I mean, I've slept since then, obviously. If I remember correctly, I think I might have been only working part-time.
Okay.
So it was just one of those things where when things were on sale, we stocked up way extra and things like that. And that's just how it usually starts with people is they start stocking extra for tough times and then they get into everything else. At least most people I know, that's how it usually starts.
So as far as tough times, you were preparing for tough times you probably didn't know were coming around the corner, did you?
Yeah, right. It's
Do
very
you
true.
do you mind sharing? I know we
No,
talked.
you're
Okay.
yeah, I can do that. Last year, in fact, I know you know a little bit, but last year, my brother and I, there was just we were living in Oklahoma. We had a 3-bedroom home and everything. That a family member owned that we stayed in for free, and then there was a rift in the family, so we had to leave. We were asked to leave,
Oh,
and it happens. And so
yep.
I packed up what I could into a small rented truck. And the thing is, half my preps got left in Oklahoma,
Oh,
which is
shoot.
heartbreaking because I had all kinds of stuff. Let me tell you, I was set for the apocalypse.
That's odd. Whatever. Yeah.
But I took about half my stuff in a truck and we moved to Utah, got far, far away from everybody. But last year, I don't know if it's probably the same way in Canada. The housing market went berserk crazy. There was nothing available because of what happened in 2020. People weren't moving out. Evictions hadn't happened. So there was
Right.
nothing available. So we ended up homeless. And we
Wow.
were homeless for from last, I want to say August, because we moved here in July. So it was around the end of August, early September until the beginning of the end of this year, the end of January 22, when we moved into this apartment.
Was that like 6 months?
It
Or
was just shy of 6 months. Yeah.
about
So
6 months too long, right?
yeah, we lived in our car for most of that time and experienced a lot. And for those most of the people here don't know me, I have a brother who's special needs. He is high functioning autistic. So I have that. I have a dog, but for 3 months, my dog, there's a place in Salt Lake City that will take care of dog for people who are homeless and looking for places. And they
Wow.
take care of them for free for 3 months usually. If they might do it longer if you need it. And they looked after my dog for 3.5 months. So
Do you know their name to shout them out? Or do
a
you
Rough
remember?
Haven.
Rough. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Rough Haven. And yeah,
RUFF Haven, Rough Haven.
they're doing the Lord's work. That is awesome.
They
That's
are, and they don't
incredible.
charge you anything, obviously. And then they made
Sure.
sure he had all his shots before he came back because I had told
Oh,
them he needed at least one because they asked me, and I said, well, I can get the rest later. And they're like, no, we'll do it all. So they gave him all his shots again for free for me.
I'm a
Isn't that
sucker for
awesome?
animals. That is incredible. That's
Yeah.
good. So I wasn't planning on spending a lot of time here, but so you were in the car even because I know Utah's got to be a little chilly by the time you
Northern
found a place
Utah.
to live.
Yeah. In fact, one night there was a blizzard. And
Wow.
I was in the car by myself. The dog was in Salt Lake, and my brother was actually in the hospital prepping for surgery to have a toe removed. He has diabetes, and he doesn't take care of himself the best.
Sure.
And sometimes it's hard for me to keep up with that. And yeah, he had a toe. His little toe got infected and got bad, and so he had to have it removed. So he was in the hospital that night. But I slept in the car during a blizzard, which was an interesting experience. I wasn't cold.
Okay.
That's one thing about prepping. I mean, I've devoured so much information. I knew how to layer my clothes. I knew how to stay warm. I had those little hot hand warmers that you break
Mhm.
and you can put in your gloves and all that. I'm telling you, people, if you don't have those, get those. You put one in the small of your back. It'll keep your core warm for hours.
Oh, that's a great tip, AP. I love that.
Yeah, I had them in my hands, in my feet, but then I had that one in the small of my back. And I've been, in the car a few times when it was 9 degrees, and that's what you do. That and blankets and sleeping bags, but to keep your body core warm, that worked for me.
And you obviously didn't. Did you leave the car running or not? Or did
No,
you try?
no.
No, you
Every
didn't.
once in a while, I would turn it back on just for maybe 10 minutes,
Okay.
and then turn it off.
And then you had a little bit of I watched a live stream the other day or earlier about what you talked about, so that's why I was asking. But you did have a little bit of crypto and a little bit of hard silver
I
at that
did.
time.
I had silver, I had crypto, and I had bang bangs.
Oh yes, yes, yeah, the stuff
Bang
they don't
bangs, but
like in
I sold
Canada.
them all to buy food and all that stuff, and to pay my store. I had a storage unit where my stuff
Mhm.
was that I brought with me. And
You didn't want to lose that.
so I have a storage unit and it's like $200 a month. And that was more important to keep all that stuff that I brought. I had some furniture, but I had, canned food and paper towels and toilet paper and that stuff that you still need, even if you're living in a car.
Sure.
So, and then moving into the apartment, it was nice because I didn't have to buy groceries right at first because I was prepped.
So what you're saying is you did exactly what you're supposed to do with preps. You sold the silver, you held on to the silver for a rainy day,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of you. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy because I don't know.
I did not want to sell any of that stuff. I mean, the crypto, I was like, okay, fine. I haven't had it that long. And, I did lose a little, obviously, but it was still, it was one of those situations where I needed food and stuff. I needed to pay my storage rent more than I needed my crypto.
Sure.
Especially with what it's doing right now. So
yeah, so you did. Just a quick tangent. Do you remember what you owned? What type of crypto it was? Was it just Bitcoin, or did you try something different?
I had Bitcoin, but I had like 4 of them, and I honestly don't remember what the others were.
That's okay.
It's been a year since I sold it, but I had more Bitcoin than anything because it's like the gateway entry drug into Bitcoin. I mean, into crypto.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's had a good question earlier from LG. This is probably as good a time as any then you found an apartment and you moved in.
Yeah, actually, we were really lucky. There was we were sleeping in the car one night outside a grocery store they had like a side area that people just didn't go to. Okay. And we would park there at night late. We could pick up the internets from the apartment building across the street.
Yeah.
So we could get out our computer and watch, Hulu. I got Hulu for $1 a month. So we would watch TV shows and do all that. And then in the morning we would leave. Well, one morning I forgot. I was so warm in my sleeping bag. I actually didn't want to get up and leave. And we got a knock on our door and it was some policemen. Oh. And they were like, you can't sleep here and everything. And I didn't mean to, but I just burst into tears, right? It was a weak moment. I couldn't help it. And then the guy, I guess, felt really bad for me. He's like, do you need an advocate? And I guess apparently in some places they have homeless advocates that work for the police departments. And here in where I live in Utah, they do. And I was like, yes, please. So they brought this woman to see me and she worked with us for all 6 months to get us into this apartment, to get us onto food stamps and stuff like that I had no idea how to do because I haven't needed it before. So
I didn't know that existed.
They have 2 of them that work for the city where I am. And obviously right now they're way busier than normal.
Sure.
Yeah. So they helped to get us in here. In fact, even we didn't have any beds. And 2 days after being here, she's like, well, do you need a bed? And I was like, well, if you can get one for my brother, that's good. I can sleep on the floor. I don't care. The police showed up the next day with 2 twin beds and they brought them up and put them so I know there's a lot of people that don't like the police, but you know what? There are some good ones out there that do good things.
Absolutely. So then obviously your passion was prepping. So how quick did you start? Because you've been growing like crazy with this content
right away.
Yeah.
I started right away. Literally. I kind of sat down. I was like, okay, what do I not have anymore? Which still, I think at one day I'm like, oh yeah, that was in Oklahoma. Okay. There's a lot of bigger items, big ticket items I don't have anymore, but there's some I still have. Like I have my Jackery and my EcoFlow that I made sure that they came with me.
Yep.
And I even used them while I was homeless. So, I mean, in the car, there was times I used them. So, there's things like that I'm so glad I kept, but there's other things I have, I have these big, long lists of stuff I want to get. And, it's just a little bit at a time, especially when you're low budget.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you, I'm going to ask you this question here and then we'll jump back to some of the ones I have. This one's great. LG wanted to know, do you know LG? They seem like they might know you.
LG's been over on my channel. Hi, LG.
Okay. They dropped in early with a question, so it's great to have them. So said, wow, great talk. Oh, wait, here, let me bring it up for you. There you go. Sorry. Says, I can't wait for it to start. She left this a few minutes early. Said, I do have a question. What is a safe way to boil water in an apartment when the power's out? What do you use?
It's funny you should ask because I had the power out this last weekend. We had a windstorm knock out the power in my building for about 18 hours. Wow. And there are several ways you can boil water in an apartment. One of them I had made a video since I was in that situation. One of them is a butane stove. You could actually use your butane stove in an apartment. Just, I recommend cracking a window.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have one of those, what is it? The thing that tells you if you've got the
CO monitor or
yes,
carbon monoxide.
if you have one of those, that's always good to have on hand. But it's fairly safe to do that. And then there's, you can use votive candles and tea light candles. Put them in baking dishes with rack over it, and put the pan on top of that to boil water. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I have one playlist right now with 2 options for doing that on my channel. So
what do you think of the butane stove? I saw that.
Yeah, I've used it once or twice before, but not in this situation. I've used it camping.
Okay.
This was the first time I actually had to use it for an emergency, and I mean, it was great. I mean, my little brother, again, I mentioned my little brother's special needs, and there's certain things, especially when it comes to food. There's only certain foods he'll eat. There's certain foods.
Sure.
It's very difficult sometimes. And one of his things is eggs. And so he's used to having eggs every morning, eggs or cereal, but eggs are his thing. So to be able to get up and just bake eggs and not worry about it when the power's out, or scramble some eggs, was fantastic. So, yeah.
Were you able to do eggs in the car sometimes, or is that not really work? Did it not work?
Well, in the car, I didn't want to take a chance. I more than anything in the car, I did I didn't use the butane stove in the car. I didn't want to do that. I didn't do any kind of open flame in the car. I didn't. We did more of going to the grocery store and buying things from the deli.
Okay.
And things like that.
Would you eat boiled eggs, like those pre-packaged boiled eggs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of sandwiches,
a
lot of cereal, and then you buy the shelf stable milk, and then I had a cooler.
Right.
So if it was hotter, we could put things in the cooler. If it was wintertime, it didn't matter. So
did you was there any, because you said this is the first time you used the butane stove indoors, did you get any smell or any no,
I had no problem. And I used it for I cooked eggs one morning, and then in the evening, I forget what I cooked. I cooked something else in the evening, meal-wise. I've slept since then, sorry. And then I cooked eggs again the next morning. Never any headaches, no problem at all. So, but I do crack my window. I don't care if it's zero degrees outside. I'm still going to crack my window that's just me though. I feel safer that way.
Yeah, I open my windows at night quite often when it's -30 outside. So I'm kind of, I know.
Even when I was in the car, my windows are cracked. Both the front windows stay cracked, but that's because you'll get condensation inside otherwise, and it'll freeze on the inside. So if you crack your windows, you have less of that.
Another way for people to know there's someone in there too, if they see the condensation, right? But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's not very stealth.
Are the butane, is that the long? Almost
it's
like a
the
spray
small
can,
canisters that look like the aerosol.
Do you have any tips for finding cheap ones of those, or have you had to buy any yet?
Mine came from Amazon, so mine wasn't cheap, but I've got other people I know found them at thrift stores, secondhand shops, garage sales, things like that, estate sales. I mean, I've got friends who have even found solar generators at thrift shops. So,
that would be awesome.
Right? I'm never that lucky.
So you are a thrift store expert though, aren't you? Or at least you spend some.
I'm not an expert, but I do like looking for deals at thrift shops, especially since there's so many things I need, and I don't have a big budget.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, hence the name Apartment Prepper, right? So, what are your best finds that you found, or what are you got any tips, or best finds or tips for thrifting?
Well, my finds, I mean, most of the stuff, I look for camping stuff all the time. I don't normally find a whole lot. Well, nowadays I don't find a whole lot. You used to find more. Some people find canning jars at thrift shops. I haven't found any, but I mainly buy kitchen items like frying pans and pots and, things like that, silverware, cutting boards, stuff that most people already have that I'm just having to replace. Because when I moved, that wasn't a total priority for me.
Do you find the prices are still better at thrift stores than other places, or because
some thrift stores? We have a thrift store here in town that I went to, and I got a really great, nice big pan, but it was kind of pricey, and the rest of the stuff they had was ridiculous. It was like going into a new store, so I won't buy a lot there. But Salvation Army, still dirt cheap. So
I used to buy There was some thrift stores I used to go to that I could buy a dozen mason jars for either $1 or $2.
Oh, wow.
And now I go in and they're $1 a jar. And if you're going to,
Oh, go
right?
ahead.
Yeah, if you're going to pay that, you might as well buy new.
Yeah, that store I was talking about that's kind of pricey. They had mason jars, but they had them for like anywhere between $3 and $8 per jar. And I'm like, I'm not that desperate. I can still buy them at Walmart, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And Facebook and Craigslist, and they sometimes, and estate sales, like
Garage
you said.
sales. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And Chris Dixon here, he's a buddy of mine from Alberta. He said that Canada's getting crazy. Dollar stores most times cheaper than thrift stores now.
I believe it.
You're a big Dollar Tree fan?
I used to really, really love Dollar Tree. Now it's just okay since it's now $1.25 tree. And in some places they're actually making it more than that. One of the ladies I follow on YouTube called Linda's Prepper Kitchen. She does obviously kitchen stuff, cooking and
Sure.
in the halls. But she said her Dollar Tree is now a Dollar Tree Plus, and it's having stuff between like $1.25 and $5. So she said you have to pay extra attention to the prices now.
So we were all, of course, in Canada, our dollar's worth less than yours for the most part.
Yeah.
Ours was always, when they first opened, they first started coming here about 5 years ago, roughly, maybe a little more than that. We started getting Dollar Trees. It was always $1.25. The sign said $1.25 and under, right? One day I went there last winter, and you could see where the $1.25 used to be, but they'd taken it down, and there was just an outline. I said, I know where this is heading.
Yeah.
Because we have a Dollarama up here that's like a Canadian staple. Used to be
I've
always
seen that on
$1.
Canadian Preppers channel. Yeah.
Yeah. And now $5. I think they're maybe working toward $10 items. It's a little bit foolish.
Yeah, it's budget items are. I mean, you really have to search now to find the good budget items.
There's my wife listening. She said it's $1.50 now at Dollar Tree. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's crazy. That blows me away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, again, you really have to. There are some things I still like to get at my Dollar Tree for $1.25. There are a few items I do still like to pick up there that I think are worth it. But
Like
most
what?
of the time, I like to get tea light candles for one. They have packages of like 20 tea light candles for $1.25, and I like those. And little like matches. I get matches there, and just more of that type of stuff. And then snacks. I get snacks there, like the little tiny bags of chocolate and little tiny bags. I love black licorice. I know that grosses most people out, but that's one of my things. But those little tiny bags are perfect for one person. So I like to grab a bunch of those and throw them in a bucket and just kind of munch on them throughout the month.
I get it. Cabot wanted to know how long ago you had to move. Yeah, if you mind covering that again right quick.
How long did I have to?
How long ago did
Oklahoma?
Yeah.
How long did I have to move? I moved in 3 days.
Wow. and that was, what did you say? In 2020 or last summer? Okay, yeah. So
that was last July. So yeah, it was almost a year ago.
Crazy how much our life can change in 12 months, hey?
Yeah.
Is it for the better, do you think?
I even with everything I've been through, it sounds weird. I'm almost grateful I went through it because I learned a lot. And I also learned how resilient. I'm not trying to say, look at me, but how resilient I was through all that. I learned that if I can make it through being homeless, I think I'm okay.
Your own horn, AP. You know what? I don't want anybody ever to apologize for where they came from and what they've been through. And you're kicking ass, so I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
That's
I just don't want to be that person. Look at me tooting my own horn because I'm not that person.
And that's one of those content creation things. If you're out there telling your story, it's okay because you want to inspire other people, and you're doing that.
Exactly. That's the hope. There's so many other people, especially in today's economy, all around the world. People are hurting, and there's a lot of people in apartments or having to move back to their parents or living in trailers or wherever, and they're looking for information. And that's one reason I started mine channel, was to maybe encourage them if they're struggling financially or things like that. Hopefully I can inspire them to know they can do it.
Absolutely.
So that's
So you take the bus a lot, don't you?
I do. I don't have a vehicle anymore. When we got the apartment, I could not afford both the apartment and the car. Okay. So I decided the apartment was more important. And right now I'm glad, because my car would just be a very fancy parking lot ornament if I had one right now, because the prices on gas here are ridiculous. So yeah, I take the bus and I walk.
So I heard you say this the other day too. I try not to always listen to interviews because I don't want to spoil things for myself. But you, so you still get food stamps, right? You said,
Yes.
yeah. Now something I never thought about, of course, because I was trying to think, okay, she takes the bus. How does she get groceries home? So you come up with a fairly ingenious idea, hey? Or well, I guess you knew of. You said Walmart will.
Here in my area, in most of the bigger cities in the United States, and I don't know if they do it elsewhere, but you can pay for your groceries with your food stamps, even online, and have it delivered for free.
Oh, that okay? Because that was my first question was, do they also make you pay
Well,
cash
I
or
say
whatever?
delivered for free. Let me rephrase that. They have a monthly membership
Okay.
that's $15 a month. But when you pay for and that you have to pay with cash.
Okay.
And that covers any kind of shipping, any deliveries or anything like that. I mean, I could order one item tomorrow for $4 online and they will ship it to me and not charge me for shipping.
Ah,
That
okay.
type of thing, and then with deliveries, if you pay with cash, they usually want you to tip the driver.
Hmm.
And so they always pre-add tip, and then if you want to change it, you can change it. But with food stamps, they never add that to it. They never even put that on there. I always try to get something um, a little bit, and I usually try to tip the driver, even if it's $1 or two. But sometimes I haven't been able to. So, and they are totally understanding. I mean, because they're not Walmart employees, they're Instacart people, but I'll be like, I'm so sorry, and they're like, no, it's good, we understand, and so they've all been very gracious there. But I do usually try.
I do too, but tips are, tips are tips. They're not, they shouldn't be expected. It's above and beyond. I know, but I shouldn't say that. I mean, I know some people live off them, right? But
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
um,
waitressed just before.
Hunter, I think Hunter was talking about Dollar Tree or the dollar stores, but he said pounds of rice, cheap knives, can openers. Everyone forgets those matches, lighters, and medicine, of
Meds,
course.
yeah, you can get some cheap good meds there. Yeah, absolutely.
And Hunter says Walmart Plus is charging $6 for orders less than 35, at least locally. So
Now, see, I saw something like that, but I never order less than 35, unless again, it's weird. If you have it delivered, they charge you if it's less than 35. But for shipping, which could still be someone just driving it up to your house and dropping it off. So I don't understand that. But if you pick the shipping option, if you have that membership, at least here, they don't charge you anything extra.
nice. That's a good
So
little hack. I like that.
yeah, so it's yeah, because without having a car, trying to get groceries is really difficult. Hauling everything you need on the bus, like I have bottled water.
Yep.
I keep a lot of bottled water. I buy the 40 packs, and so
Oh,
I have about 8 of those at all times in my house usually. And it's not something I want to carry across town on the bus. Not something I get. They're heavy.
do you have
So
any tips for? I remember when I was in college and having to walk with groceries, and it was a pain in the ass. But do you have any tips for taking groceries on the bus or anything? Or
well, I have bags, the reusable bags, and I
yep.
just know what I can carry physically without getting worn out. And even out, I always have two, and I usually have a bag over my back, and I kind of just even everything out weight wise. And I try not to get super heavy stuff. I do buy canned goods because I noticed that's the one thing when I order online and get deliveries, canned goods are always damaged. So I try to just purchase
Oh,
those myself when I go to the store.
now, speaking of damaged, I also learned something else from you recently. So I'm going to get you. I love these, so I want you to share them with the audience. But you mentioned something about what is it, a scratch and dent or a damaged grocery store or something like that?
Salvage grocery store. They have them all across the U.S. in different places. It's like grocery stores that have closeouts or things that have fallen off of trucks. Um, just anything that's not considered sellable in a main grocery store or box store, and they have them there. And that's a salvage store, a secondhand store. I think Sassy Gal Prepping has a really nice one near her in Washington D.C. area. Hers
Okay.
looks like a real grocery store. Mine looks like a junk store because it's a lot of junk. Because you have damage, you have boxes that are smashed and things like that. But if you look through it, you can find some good deals. Plus, sometimes the smashed boxes, the stuff inside is okay. So, and the discount on the prices is really good.
What's
Usually
you bought a bunch of chips the other day. What'd you pay for those?
50 cents a bag, and they were the full size potato chips. They just were an off brand I'd never heard of, but they
They're
were the big family size bag of chips.
wow.
Yeah, and they were 50 cents a bag because they were actually expired by a month. But potato chips are good for several months past an expiration date or best buy date. Now I don't even like expiration, best buy date.
I
So
know. I'm crazy. I eat yogurt like 2-3 months past the expiration. It lasts.
I used to never. I used to be that person that was like, oh my God, it's expired, throw it away.
Yep.
Because I've always had a very sensitive stomach. And so it was just my mom, I guess, did that with me. And so I got it in my head, oh no, it's no good anymore. But it was when I became homeless, I really started paying attention to that and going, oh, okay, I can still eat it. And I started doing more research because we needed to make stuff last. And now I'm just like, okay, whatever. Does it smell okay? Is there anything bad on it? Okay, it's fine.
Use the nose test, right?
Right.
Snail Creek says that you sound like a tough lady. I had to get that one up there.
Oh,
For you,
thanks. I'll be honest. I'm not always tough, but I do try to be. I have to be taking care of my brother. So.
And Rachel wanted to know if you could take one of those small carts with wheels on the bus.
I have one. Well, mine isn't small. Actually, someone left one out at the garbage can here, and I got it's one of those ones from. It's a bigger one, but you can take like a fold up cart on the bus with you, one that will fold out and fold back or whatever. But the bus aisles, at least my bus, are really thin. So there's really not much room for cartwheels in there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then it's not like you'd want to strap it to the front like they do with bikes because you got your, yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather not do that.
Yeah, not a good thing. And I thought there was one more. Oh, yeah. And Hunter says, heck yeah, some of the best and worst at the salvage place.
Yeah, salvage stores are great. I had never shopped at one before until I moved to Utah, and but there happens to be one fairly close, and it's within walking distance. Actually, it's kind of a long walk, but I still call it walking distance.
Oh,
But I wouldn't do it in the middle of summer. Like right now, we're about to have a bunch of 102 and 100-degree days, which that's just too hot for me. And I actually have a heat allergy, which sucks. If it gets above 75 degrees, I break out in a rash. I break out in hives and a rash, and I look like I have the plague. So that doesn't help.
If my wife is still listening, she feels your pain. I'm sure she'll. Yeah, absolutely. It happens,
Yeah. Well, it's called urticaria, something urticaria. I can never remember the proper name of it, but yeah, I really do look like I have the plague. I've scared people before in the middle of summer because I look like I have some weird disease. So usually I go really early in the morning, and then
that's her.
I can't go in the evening because the bus stops running like 6-7 o'clock here. So
how much do you have to pay for the bus pass?
Well, you can buy monthly passes, but they're too expensive. The monthly passes are like $80, and I can't afford that.
Sure.
I usually you can buy a card that you reload.
Yeah.
And I'll buy $30 at the beginning of the month, and then it's the bus fare still is right now only $2 if you have a reloadable card, and that's good for 4 hours, and it doesn't matter how many times you switch buses.
Oh.
Well, I could take about 10 buses in 4 hours and go a bunch of different places, and it'll only cost me $2 to there and home.
You're a smart chick. I love it. That's great.
You have to learn these things when you're trying to save money.
I love that. No, that's great. I love that. That's awesome. You remind me of my wife when I met her. That she's still like that, but that is great. Yeah, and Hunter says the bus stops that early. Is that just your area, or is that?
Well, in some of the other parts of the city, it runs later, but the one that comes to where I live, because I live like up this big hill, and I guess I don't know, but it stops at 6 o'clock by me. So, okay. And it stops at 6. The nearest one I could walk to stops at 7. They do have a few throughout the city that do run later, but we're not. Yeah. I'm not in Salt Lake itself. I'm in a suburb of Salt Lake, so it's not the big city, but it's still it's 100,000 plus. So to me, it's still a big city.
So do you have access to any of the Mormon stores or anything like that in your area?
I haven't. They are here, and anyone can go to the warehouses, but I haven't been to one yet, just because I haven't had the finances to do it. But one thing that's great here is Augustin Farms. I'm sure you've heard of Augustin Farms, right? They are a Utah company, and so here in Utah, obviously with the LDS community, prepping is just normal here.
Yes.
And it's just a given. The stores actually, they set themselves up a little differently here because they expect prepping.
Okay.
And so every little mom and pop store has an Augustin Farm section.
That's why, yeah, because you got a good deal. Was it egg or butter the other day? I can't remember which one it was.
Well, I got the egg. I got egg and butter from August
Okay.
and Farms in the pouches, which I didn't realize those pouches aren't sold everywhere. Most of my friends elsewhere around the country can't find those pouches. And I guess that's just a Utah thing. And I didn't realize that. Everyone else can find the number 10 cans, but they're also way expensive. So I guess I lucked out.
I don't like to bitch too often about living in Canada, but that kind of stuff is miserably expensive up here.
Oh, it's, the August and Farms number 10 can of the eggs right now on their website, it has jumped to like $120.
That's crazy.
And it was 20 something dollars in February. But that's with all the egg things, all the processing fires, all the animals that have suddenly died. And, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but.
Oh, I get it. I do. I don't care if you're a conspiracy theorist or not. It's been a miserable year for anything in the end of, it's been bad.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more people with foil hats this year than ever before. So
I wear them sometimes, but they hurt my feelings. So, So what about, do you talk a little, so I follow a YouTuber called Silver Symbol. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's a guy on the East Coast, and that's okay. Don't worry a bit.
Sorry.
He talks about the EcoFlow all the time. So what do you think of that? I love it. As soon as I seen you had one, I was like, oh, that's a smart lady. I love it.
Hold on one sec.
Yeah, no problem. Yes.
Will you get Max, please? Sorry, my dog is barking at somebody outside.
Okay. A minute ago, all 6 of my chihuahuas were barking upstairs. They act like somebody's breaking in the house to burn it down. So don't worry, not a bit.
No. He gets really excited, especially if there's a motorcycle outside. He really gets him going. And I'm up on the 5th floor, so he has a really good view of the parking lot. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. The EcoFlow, I love the EcoFlow. When I bought mine a couple years ago, I did a lot of research because what I did in 2020 in the United States, the government was handing out all that money.
Yeah.
For reasons I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll take money.
Anytime you can get your tax dollars.
Drive up the inflation, but if you're going to hand it out anyway, yeah, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
But I used that to buy stuff like solar generators and things like that because I didn't have the money otherwise.
Right.
And the EcoFlow, I have an EcoFlow and I have a Jackery.
Wow.
The EcoFlow, I actually used it the other night for the first time on a big item, and that was my fridge and freezer. When the power went out, right before I went to bed, I plugged it in, went to bed, didn't have to worry about it. It kept everything fine. It's just, again, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to researching things. Yeah. I will research things till the cows come home, basically. I would just research the heck out of everything to try and find what I need and the information I need. And that had so many good reviews, so many good, there was just so much said about it that I went with that. And I'm one of those that I'm a total believer. I think it's a great product.
All I can say is the guy that I followed for a couple of years now, I trust his opinion more than most that I've watched on YouTube, and he just raves about the EcoFlow. He has like, I want to say 4 of them now.
Oh, if I had the money, I would too.
And you can link them together. He just had something the other day. I know, where you could hook it directly into your electrical panel.
Yeah.
Solar. So do you just you plug it in, keep it charged up then?
I actually do have solar panels for my Jackery and for my EcoFlow, but they are in my storage unit right now.
Fair enough.
Since I don't have a balcony at my apartment. Oh. Yeah. I don't have a balcony, which kind of sucks, but I'm thankful to have a home and a roof over my head.
Yes. Yep.
But all I have is I have like a big window over here, the one that the dog likes to bark out of. Yep. But it does get some good daylight. So my thinking is I could rig up the solar panel to sit there and take in the sun because it's a huge window.
Okay.
So I haven't tried it yet, but I've got to work all that out. But right now I leave it plugged in. And then, every few months you're supposed to, use it a certain percentage to keep that battery up to par. And then I do that and just leave it plugged in otherwise.
So you plugged your fridge and freezer into it, or was it just a fridge?
Well, I have one of those old school fridge freezers that's got the little freezer on top.
Okay. Yep.
The old 1970s looking fridge. That's what I have. And it's a tiny freezer, but if I had a freezer though, I could plug both of them into it. If I had a small,
Little chest
three foot
freezer.
chest
Yep.
freezer or something. I could have easily plugged it into there and they both would have been fine.
So you plugged it in at night, went to bed.
Mhm.
Did it use all the power in that
Oh
overnight? Not
no, it
even
only
close?
used a small percent.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah, I
because
didn't use very much at all. Someone, I was watching something the other day, and they talked about like the type of fridge freezer I have. Apparently, does not use that much juice on the solar generator. I didn't even know that, but I saw someone else talking about it. So that's good to know. I mean, I found that out that night too. But
now I
yes,
know it wasn't super, like, obviously it was hot, not cold, but do you have a plan for either heat or cooling if in prolonged
um,
outages?
well, one thing we moved in this apartment at the end of January, and one thing I found out is I didn't even turn on the heat most of the time. This
Mhm.
apartment stayed warm. I mean, obviously heat rises and being on the fifth floor. And this is an old building, an old, probably built in the 30s. So it's built solidly and it's just been remodeled into apartments. It's an old industrial building. So
Okay,
it's really, really solid old school materials.
sure.
So it's really warm.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't even have to, I hardly ever, it would be 30 degrees outside and it would be what 60 in here
Oh,
without having the heater on. So now on the flip side, I have to have the AC on a lot in the
right.
summer. I found out up until a week ago, I could turn that off at night and still open the window and get a nice, really cool breeze. But this week, that's not working. So,
So what would you, if you did, say, I don't know, a couple of days or something, would you just run fans with the windows open, or what would you?
um, well, I have a lot of choices. I mean, I've got some battery operated fans. I've got some USB operated fans. I've got a
Cool.
deck fan.
I
I've
saw that.
I've got I've got like the little cloths you put around your neck. I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got ice pads in the freezer that I could always just take out and use since I'm keeping that cool. Yeah, it's just those are things I try to be prepared with. And then I'm a slight addict when it comes to like lanterns and flashlights and candles and all that stuff. To me, you can never have enough. And yeah. So I'm good there. Um,
Nice.
I had a Mr. Buddy heater when I was in Oklahoma. I don't have one anymore. I don't want to have one while I'm in the apartment is what I've decided.
Okay.
Um, just because with it being the propane, I'm just not as comfortable in an apartment with the propane situation
Sure.
as I am with the butane. I know that sounds weird. That's just
It's okay.
I have a very small apartment and I really have nowhere to store it, quite frankly. But I do have other options. I mean, I'm all about, I know I've got a tent. You can set up a tent. You can do blankets. You can do all kinds of things to create the room to stay warm in. And again, I've got so many of those hand warmers and things like that. And yeah, I think we'll be okay if something really cold happened for long term.
So yeah, that's a great tip. So making a smaller space so that you don't have to heat the bigger space.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I mean, when I used to go camping when I was younger, I never thought about it. But a couple years ago, I saw someone talk about that. Get a tent and set it up in like the bedroom and close the door and keep everybody in there. And if they're really cold, put them in the tents and you could put blankets even over the tent if it's with chairs and stuff to kind of prop it up like an old fort like kids used to build.
Yeah, I love it. I've always mentioned it to people to run a single air conditioner off their generator and cool one room. Never really
Yeah.
thought about creating a smaller space to, yeah, that's great. And you could
Yeah.
probably even use maybe a swamp cooler or,
Oh yeah, you could.
yeah, like imagine laying in a tent and having a swamp cooler on one end. You might, yeah, whatever
You
it
could do
takes.
that absolutely. But that's one thing. A few months ago when everybody was really worried about the whole thing with the big bear country and potential
Oh, yes. Yeah.
nuclear stuff.
Took me a
Sorry,
minute. Yeah.
I try to
It's
be
okay.
careful with YouTube because I know how they are.
I
There's
understand.
certain
Yeah.
words that they don't appreciate. So I try to be careful of everyone else's lives, especially. But when everybody was really scared at first when that happened, there was a lot of conversation about that, about setting up the one part of your house or one part of your
Mm.
room into that smaller area. And it can work for so many different things, not just the nuclear situation, but again, just the hot or cold thing and all that.
What about, so you mentioned, I never thought of this, you're on the 5th floor. So
Mhm.
please tell me you at least have an elevator.
We have two elevators. One has been broken since March.
Okay.
One a few weeks ago, or was it last month? Both of them were broken for a weekend. And
Oh,
I live in a building that has a lot of disabled and elderly people. So there's several people in wheelchairs who got trapped either outside and had to go stay at friends and family. There's one lady up here on my floor who couldn't go anywhere. Someone had to go get her laundry out of the basement for her. So
wow. That's
yeah,
like their own personal, I don't want to say apocalypse, but their own personal
it's
prepping.
SHTF. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you handle the stairs at some point?
I have a bad leg, and
Right.
so I do the stairs, but it hurts. But what else can you do? I mean, um, it is what it is. I mean, obviously my goal one day is to get a place on the ground floor somewhere, but you make do with what you have. One thing, my only concern here, my biggest fear is always fire.
Yes.
That's my biggest fear because I am on the 5th floor. I can't just like jump out the window because right outside our window, it's all concrete. It's not like there's grass out there.
Right.
It's concrete because I've had several people just say, well, just jump. And I'm like, yeah, no.
I wouldn't jump on grass from the 5th floor.
No, even that you can still break something or
Yeah,
everything.
if you're lucky.
And I mean, I probably do need to go ahead and get one of those ladders that they have, but even those only usually go 2 floors. So you're still left with 3 floors. And so I'm trying to figure that out.
Boy, I don't,
That's my biggest concern living somewhere like here.
maybe, I don't know, maybe some sort of breathing apparatus or a filter.
I have a couple, I have a couple of Mira masks.
Yeah. Oh boy, you're switched on. This is great. I love
I have
it.
a couple of Mira masks with different filters, and one of them is the smoke thing. So I've got one for each of us I think I have about 4 filters.
Have you
So
ever, so I had a
I
guy
haven't used
on,
them yet in anything.
okay. I had a guy on a few weeks ago. His son was special needs. So do you have any have you done any training with your brother, or have you
As
practiced?
in we've practiced like exiting the building. We've practiced that type of stuff. I haven't we've practiced putting on the mask a couple times. He doesn't
Okay.
like it, but he understands if I'm asking him to put it on, it's serious. My brother is an adult. I mean, he's 50, and he is high functioning, but he still has his moments.
Sure.
And I've worked with him. He knows if I'm not home for some reason and something happens, he's to get the dog and go, the path that we've practiced. Um, and so yeah, that's something I'm still working on because
Is
yeah,
he perfectly capable of following those directions? Like
yes.
get the dog in? Okay, that's
He
cool.
is because he is very high functioning. He's held jobs and he worked for 7 years for Arby's. When we were
Oh,
elsewhere, he worked for Arby's. They won't hire him here. He worked as a dishwasher here when he messed up his foot. He worked as a dishwasher for a few months, but now he's been trying to find a job again, and nobody will hire him because everybody says they're desperate, but because he can't work nights and weekends because of the bus,
right.
they won't hire him. So, you
The
know,
full-time people are working the day shift still, right?
mhm.
So we had, let's see, we had so Cabot Porter, being the smartass, said a parachute. Yeah. Now Chris come up with a slightly less sketchy idea. Said you could hook 2 rope ladders together to reach 5 floors. Sketchy, but in a pinch it could save a life for
And
sure.
I never actually thought about that. So thank you, Chris. I just knew one was too short.
He's a solutions guy, man. He comes up with it.
I
Now
appreciate it.
Martinson said rappelling gear. I'm not sure I'd want to do that.
I thought about that actually, but with my brother, I don't think that would work. Even with me,
No.
I'm quite a klutz, so I would probably fall.
I climbed all the time, like not like with ropes, but I wouldn't want to rappel. I can tell you that. So what about, so okay, you it's a 1-bedroom apartment, you and your
One
brother.
bedroom apartment. My brother, I have him in the corner of the bedroom, and my bed is out here in the front, and then the other half of the bedroom is like storage.
Okay.
So, but
So
yeah.
where do you store your preps? What kind of what
Oh
I know
gosh,
you, yeah.
everywhere I can. I don't have a pantry. I don't have a big kitchen. In fact, I wonder if I can. I have.
Oh wow. Is this
There's some of
your,
my stuff right there
yeah,
since I don't have a pantry.
nice.
Um, and then I've got stuff. under the bed, under the chairs, in the closet. In fact, I did a 1 minute, 20-second video I posted yesterday that said stash it everywhere. And it was just me pulling out stuff in different places to show people literally stash it everywhere you can find a spot.
Are you doing TikTok yet?
I'm sorry?
Are you doing TikTok yet?
No.
You should be. If you're doing 1 minute, 20-second videos, it doesn't happen to everybody, but I got on there 6 weeks ago and I've got like 4,000 followers now. So
oh, wow, that's
I had
awesome.
a video that went crazy, but I think you'd be perfect for TikTok.
I don't make really long videos usually because it's so funny. I enjoy YouTube, but making the videos I always think of other people think, well, they want to just watch something and move on to something else. They don't want to spend 15 minutes watching me unless it's a live stream or something that's different. But so my videos are usually pretty short. They're usually literally 3-4 minutes. So
you would be perfect. Whatever, but it's another platform to get your story and your teachings out there. And I love it. I didn't think I would.
I just figured I was too old for TikTok.
Me too. And I had a guy older than me tell me that I was stupid if I wasn't using it. And I'm like, all right, I trust you. You're a smart dude. So I'm going to follow you. And yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So what about, you have some creative recipes too. I was going through some of your stuff on Instagram. And you've got I want to call it it almost like a no ingredient chocolate cake. It's not no ingredients, but it's very few. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was the Depression era cake I found online that was made with vinegar instead of eggs.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any butter or.
Yeah, no, it was like flour, vinegar, salt, cocoa, which I used hot chocolate because I didn't even have any cocoa. And it was one other thing maybe, and that was it. And it was super moist and super delicious. I was surprised.
Caramel or something on it?
What did I have on top of that? I don't even remember anymore. It was one of those recipes where I didn't have a lot in the house. And I was like, well, let's see what they used to do back in the day. So I went looking for Depression era recipes. And in fact, a bunch of ladies on YouTube, there's about 10 ladies here in a couple of weeks. We're doing a collaboration called SHTF meals.
Oh.
Where all of us are going to do like a different meal for SHTF. And I use that term loosely. I mean, it could be you're broke and you have no money to go to the store, so you have to use what's on your shelf, or it could be literally cooking outside on the campfire. The zombies are coming. I told them, I said, do whatever you want. But yeah, we're going to be having that in a couple of weeks. I think that'll be fun.
Send me the link for that. I'll make sure I share it around on social. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, it's just everyone, again, low budget. Trying to buy groceries is really hard for everybody, but especially when you only have a couple $100, period. And
Absolutely.
You're trying to buy groceries and you're also trying to prep a little. It's, and I've been doing a lot of research, especially World War II ration cooking. I don't know if you saw that picture of that World War II ration cookbook I posted on Instagram.
Where'd you find that?
I found it online. It's actually, I posted the link underneath. It's one of those heritage sites that shows stuff like that where you can click on it for free and see the whole thing.
Okay.
And I mean, it was interesting. Some of the recipes were interesting. Some of them I would not touch with a 10-foot pole because it was head to toe cooking of the animals.
Oh,
so they
sure.
used everything because it was World War II and it was rationing. One of the recipes was stuffed beef hearts.
Oh, now here's the thing.
I'll be honest, not for me. I've never had it, but it just, yeah.
We slaughtered pigs years ago, and my uncle took the brain and made head cheese for himself. I said he could have it. I'm good. I don't need it. But yeah, I get it totally.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people who still do that today. It's just it's not something I'm used to.
No. Yeah, and if you don't grow up with it,
in a real SHTF situation, I would be happy to eat that. I'm sure. If I had nothing else, feed it to me. But there was a lot of interesting recipes in there. So
that's cool. And you did was it a 2-ingredient bread, or was I crazy about that? Was that a 2?
No, there was a 2-ingredient bread. There's different variations on the 2 ingredients. A lot of people use milk and heavy cream.
Okay.
I never have heavy cream in the house. I usually have canned like Media Crema or evaporated milk. Media Crema is just Nestle's version of Mexican table cream.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How heavy is that?
It's halfway between milk and cream. So it's like a light cream. But I use it for anytime anything calls for heavy cream. I use Media Crema because my mom did, and it's just habit for me. Okay. I mean, you've heard me say I'm not a cook. I stayed away from years. I'm just now kind of retraining myself. But yeah, but some people use yogurt and flour. Some people use like the Greek yogurt, or there's tons of 2-ingredient breads and biscuits all over the internet. So
We're gonna have to try that. I think that's cool. I like that.
I was just looking, I have powdered, I keep a lot of powdered milk and things like that. And so I've been trying to look for stuff to use that stuff up. And now I don't even, my little brother drinks coconut milk. He doesn't like regular milk. So I buy one cold coconut milk every month, and then I buy a bunch of shelf stable, because so when that one runs out, I can just grab a shelf stable one and throw it in the fridge.
Okay.
Outside of that, I use powdered milk for cooking.
Really? No problem. You have good luck with it?
I love it. Hoosier Hills. I don't know if that's a brand y'all can get.
It is. Yep.
Hoosier Hills powdered milk. I love it. I've been using it now for about a month, and I love it. I mean, I'm not a milk person, but I did mix it together and taste it, and I thought it tasted good because it's a whole milk powder. It's not a 2%.
Yes.
So it's whole milk powder, and so I think it's better than like the Walmart powdered 2% or stuff like that. Even though I have that too.
The only place I've seen it up here is on Amazon. So
that's where I get it.
That's what I figured. If any of my Canuck listeners are looking, then I would go there. It's a little pricey again. Everything is, but
yeah. But that powdered milk will last a long time because you need it's mostly water. Like if it calls for half a cup of milk in their recipe, you get half a cup of water, and you add a little bit of that powdered milk to it and mix it up.
Right. Yeah. So you're not using a half a cup of powder. You're using
barely a half a
teaspoon
or so. Yeah. You can make it however you like it. So
because you're just giving the more you add, the richer it'll be.
Yeah. And so I don't even quote measure it anymore. If it says 3/4 cup of milk, I get 3/4 cup of water, just grab a teaspoon and add some and go for it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Any other cool recipes you found in the Depression era cooking book? Or
I don't know if it's cool.
Interesting.
Something I'm going to be doing interesting. One I'm going to be doing soon that a lot of other people have been doing, but I still want to try it, and that's Hoover stew. Have you seen that? I don't know, for anyone who's not from the U.S. Herbert Hoover was the president when the Depression hit, and he got blamed pretty much for everything that happened. Kind of rightly so, kind of not, but that's a whole other situation. But they had those shanty towns that showed up on the edge of the cities all over in the 30s, and they were called Hoovervilles. And soup kitchens popped up, and a lot of them served what they nicknamed Hoover stew. And it was most of the time it was something like macaronis, stewed tomatoes, like a couple cans of stewed tomatoes, canned corn, and hot dogs that are sliced up.
Right. Okay.
Hoover stew. A lot of it's been called hot dog stew and everything since, but it's known as Hoover stew technically. And it was kind of just the cheapest ingredients you could find to feed a whole lot of people. And it's popped up on a lot of YouTube channels lately.
Huh. So is it watery or is it
I haven't made it yet. Okay. I haven't made it yet. I want to make it because it sounds pretty bland, but you can do what you want with it. But I'm curious just to know kind of how the original tasted, because I'm also kind of a history nerd. So I'm very much a history nerd. So I want to know kind of what the original tastes like. And then I can, do stuff, because some people add beans. I saw one picture on Pinterest of somebody who said, "Oh, look, I made Hoover stew." And they had like all this stuff from like Whole Foods that was like probably worth more than half my grocery budget. And I'm like, that is not Hoover stew. But hey, for them it was, I guess. So
Chris says that AP made a hole in the wall and shared it on Instagram. That's how he knew you were his kind of people.
Hole in the wall.
Is that I'm guessing it's probably the toast with the egg? The
toast. Oh, okay. I was like, hole in the wall. I just knew it as I forget what it's called.
There's a name for it. My my Scottish friend Jaggy, he eats something like that too. I'm trying to think of what it is, but
that was the first time I made it a couple days ago. I've seen it, but I've never made it before. And it just was like, I wanted egg, but I didn't really want scrambled egg. And honestly, I don't care for fried eggs that much.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, let me try that. And I did it, and I really liked it.
I see you put butter on top of your peanut butter too. Egg in a basket. There it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's it. And yeah, I do. That's something I've done from childhood. That's just how I eat it. But
I always did the other way. It's okay. Don't worry a bit.
The funny thing was a lot of people on Instagram were like saying they did it too. In fact, Van City Prepper, she said to her husband, who's from England, does it that way. And
I did butter and then peanut butter quite often. And then something that I'm sure is absolutely bad for you, butter and then cheese whiz. It's got to be one of the worst, but it's good.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, there, Becky says egg in a basket as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, I didn't remember. I just was like, oh, okay. And then I know you're supposed to take like a biscuit cutter and cut out a hole. I just like ripped it out with my hand. So,
yeah. Whatever. And Cabot says a bit of garlic, some butter makes anything taste good.
Yeah. I'm there with you on that.
So what about the things that are expensive? Proteins, for instance. I mean, they're one of the most expensive, and they're not getting any cheaper.
No,
how do you handle that on a budget?
Well, what I did was in April, I spent half my budget on meat specifically, and then I did the I bought a big pack. I bought pork chops and chicken thighs and chicken breasts and a bunch of ground turkey. And then I separated it all up and I'm losing, I can't think tonight. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The bags where you suck the air out of it.
Oh, a vacuum. Yeah, you have a
vacuum sealed it.
Yeah, sure.
I vacuum sealed a bunch of them into smaller packages. So if it was a pack of 8, I took out 2, 2, 2, and 2 and vacuum sealed it like that. Cause I'm just using less meat.
Sure.
And trying to make things stretch. But that's what I did. I got a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm just now at the point of where I'm running out of that again. So next month I'll be trying to do that again. I know it'll be more expensive because I have been looking. But if I do that every few months, it's kind of like just get it done, over with, and then I don't have to think about it for a little bit.
Fair enough. So spend it up front, get the priorities done, and then fill in the rest with what you have left.
I have that small freezer section, and I just kind of said, well, half of it will be meat.
Okay.
And I'm really good at packing stuff. I'm really good at making stuff fit places. So I have years of experience of moving and stuff like that. So I'm pretty good at that. I can fit a lot of stuff in a small space.
That's cool. That's why you're the apartment prepper.
I almost didn't choose that name. There's a couple other people who go by that name. And then I really debated on the prepper part because, some people look at prepping and they're like, oh, you're one of those crazy people. Other people will be like, oh, you're not a prepper because you're a female in an apartment and you're not outside doing bushcraft. And, it's just, how people are. People can be very narrow-minded. And so I really struggled, and I finally decided I'm just going to go with it because I am a prepper for my situation.
Absolutely. And anybody who says you're not a real prepper, would you say they're not a real? Yeah. Anyway, they give you grief, and I don't care what. All I want is anyone and everyone to be a little bit more prepared. So yeah, exactly. I mean, whether you're a tactical ninja who has an entire compound full of firearms, or you're someone who's living in an apartment, or someone who's living in a car right now because they're transient in between houses, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can still prep when you're transient. Absolutely.
This is Justin. He has the 30-day reviews YouTube channel. He does beard products and stuff. He says he uses a top rim of a glass for cutting out.
Yeah, I don't have any glasses. I have a lot of coffee cups.
Okay.
I don't drink coffee. My brother does, but I drink usually Diet Coke, and I'm trying to switch to sparkling water.
Uh-huh.
I know. This is actually really good. I don't know if you guys can get this in Canada. This is actually really good. This is citrus and green tea.
And it has caffeine. That makes my day. Yeah.
It has caffeine, yeah.
Cabot says, not a prepper if you don't talk about zombies. And you've already mentioned zombies, so we're okay.
Zombies.
So what about, what was the other little machine you have? You had the...
was it the Jackery?
Yeah. What do you think of that? I've got a guy who's going to lend me one to test out for a bit.
I have the Jackery 500. It's not the smallest. It's not the biggest. I really like it. That's the one I used most of the time when I was in the car homeless.
Okay. And
it sounds funny, but we used it to charge our computers, to charge our phones and things like that. And it's great. It's another one I did a lot of research on a few years ago. I know I've had people say, well, you shouldn't buy it nowadays because there's better and cheaper ones, but Jackery is a really great company, at least in my opinion, and
Yes.
I have a lot of faith in them and what they do, and I love my Jackery 500. For smaller items, I can hook up a little fan to it, USB fan. I mean, it's just I love it. So
Some smaller fridges, I think you could probably run off them for a bit
you
too.
probably can. I've never done that, but you probably could. Some of those little they call the college beer fridges and stuff. You probably yeah, the small ones like that. Yeah.
They're 500 watts. Is that why it's called 500, or do you?
Yes.
Yeah, but they peak a little higher than that, or do you remember?
Just a little bit is from my understanding. I've never hit it that high, so I've never tested it that high. So my thing is, I always look for something. I always look for something that'll charge stuff just a little bit lower than what its max is.
Right. Yes, you don't.
I always give it that leeway. So
we got a couple minutes yet. I wanted to ask you. You're a book person too, are you?
Oh yes, I love books.
What are some of your favorite prepping books? If I have time, I like to ask people either movies or books, and I can tell you're a book person. So
books and movies. I mean, I managed a movie theater for 10 years.
Didn't know that. We'll have to get you back on to tell stories about that sometime.
Oh boy, I got some doozies. But I do love books. My favorite prepping books, I'm always saying I'm this kind of nerd, that kind of a nerd. I'm a medical nerd. I actually went to school to study infectious disease history. I never graduated.
Wow.
I didn't finish, but I'm very much into infectious disease history. So the medical prepping books are usually my favorite, like the Where There Is No Doctor, Where There Is No Dentist, Where Women Have No Doctor. There's even Where There Is No Vet, and I haven't got that one yet. I need to get that one, but I like those type of books that. I'm really a nonfiction person. I like some fiction, but most of my fiction comes in movie form. So nonfiction books is what I have most of.
What anything other than any other medical ones you like, or any other recipe
I've got the one by the Altons.
I was going to ask you if you've got Bones and Amy's book.
It's like that. Yeah, most people who call themselves preppers have that one, I guess.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, that was one of the first ones I got, and I mean, I have a whole, big stack of medical books, and I've even got just regular medical books not related to prepping whatsoever. I mean, how to dress a wound and just stuff like nursing books and things like that. And I even have stuff though, like on sewing and tying knots and just your basic everyday stuff that you may have to know one day.
Well, and you can still get those at thrift stores fairly cheap, can't you? Some of that
You can. And then behind me, this is like cookbooks and stuff.
Okay.
So I have a lot of cookbooks, and in fact, that's one thing I did not leave behind in Oklahoma was any of my books.
Right.
And some people would be like, "You're so stupid," but you know what? That's what's important to me. And so my storage area, I still have 12 boxes of books.
Wow.
And I have brought like 10 of them to the apartment. And then I also brought all my movies. I have like 14 boxes of movies. Most of them are stuck behind my chairs right now with a cloth over them.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
that's my movie boxes. Most of my movie boxes.
So how did you do that? Anything in particular? Like you just put a cloth over them and to make it look
decorative? I put a sheet
decorative?
over it. That's all that is a sheet. Yeah, so it's and then I set some books on top of it. My fiction books are on top of it, and yeah. So.
Well, what's your all-time favorite movie then, if you're a movie person?
My all-time favorite movie, man, that's a tough one because it would probably be something old and black and white because I don't know though. Now you're asking me a really tough question.
I know, but
you know what? I can answer that. Whale Rider. It's not an old movie at all.
Really?
It was a New Zealand movie.
Yeah.
A Maori movie. That is tied with the movie with Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. The one where he is a little crazy in the head, and I can't remember the name of it.
Yes, I'm trying to. Yes, look at that.
I own that on the collector's DVD, the box set and everything, and I can't remember the name right now. But
how about old black and white then? You said you're a black and white fan. What do you?
I love old black and white movies. Oh, The Thin Man. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Thin Man series. It was a series of 5 or 6 movies back in the 30s, starring William Powell and Myrna Loy, based on they're murder mysteries, but they're also comedies.
Okay.
The main character is a complete and utter drunk, but he's super smart, and it's funny. And they talked about making another one a few years ago. Brad Pitt was going to do it.
I heard that.
That was yeah, and it's just I love the Thin Man movies. Absolutely, yeah.
Were you
Again,
a
movies.
Hitchcock fan at all? I know you didn't
What?
come on to talk about movies, but were you a Hitchcock fan at all?
Oh yes. Oh
What's
yes.
your favorite?
North by Northwest. I am a Cary Grant fan.
Really? No, I gotta say, I know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is our show, so I can talk about whatever I want. But I like North Not by Northwest, but it's probably not even my top 10 of his
Most
movies.
people, it's not. It's the first one I ever saw.
Yep, I get
So
it.
it's a little bit nostalgic. I watched it for Cary Grant, not for Alfred Hitchcock.
I understand.
When I was like 16, I discovered Cary Grant
Fair
and
enough.
proceeded to watch every single thing I could find. So it's just sort of nostalgic for me.
Yeah, no, that's
I also really like, see, the ones I like, most people don't. I like the one with the black and white one with Gregory Peck that has the Salvador Dali art in it.
yeah. My two of my favorites are the Jimmy Stewart ones. Rear window, rear view, rear window,
Rear
whatever.
view window. I
Yep.
think. Rear window.
Becky and I just watched one last year that I loved. He's an older college professor, and the kids kill somebody, put them
Oh, the
in
one that
rope. That was
Yeah.
I couldn't. That's probably
Hey,
top
I
three.
actually haven't seen that one, but I can see the cover in my head.
Oh, if you
Because I also worked at a video store.
sure. Oh my God. Oh. You know what? So we're going to do a movie night here sometime in the winter. If you want to come on, I would love for you to come on and chat
That
with
would
us.
be
That would
fun.
be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're I don't know. I do like once a month. I do my top apocalyptic movies or different things like that.
I saw that. I need to go watch that. And I was going to tell you, you guys did the book club. You guys are doing the book club right now with the coming
Going
home or
home?
whatever.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman on YouTube called Cold War Prepper, and
Okay.
he's been doing the book club for the apocalyptic series, The Reversion. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
They just did the last Thursday of every month they have their discussion group on his channel, and they just did book one. There's 3 books in the series, I think, and next month they'll do the second or July. Last Thursday in July they'll be doing the second book.
I didn't know anybody else was doing it. That's all. I'm going to thank you. Well,
he does that, and then he's doing a nonfiction SHTF type book by a guy who was in the Balkans when all that happened, and I can't pronounce the guy's name. Succo something.
I think he might have been on Jack's show on the Survival Podcast for an interview. Maybe I might be wrong, but
the book is called SHTF Boot Camp. Maybe that one, the nonfiction one. But they're doing that like every Tuesday night, and I'm not trying to promote someone else's channel.
Oh, I don't go for it.
I tell you, Prepper, he's an older gentleman. He's got life experience. The man knows what he's talking about. But his book clubs, I just thought about that because I saw your book club the other night. Yeah.
What'd you say his name was in? Clockwork?
Cold War Prepper.
Cold War, sorry. Yeah, I don't know where I got Clockwork from.
He was in the military. He was one of those people that did translating of Russian and everything back in the 60s. And I mean, he did.
I got to reach out to him.
Man, you should. He's an awesome. I love, his name is Lee at Cold War Prepper. He's an amazing gentleman, has just the stories. He's been on Van City Preppers and a couple others. And yeah.
See, this is why I reach out to people who aren't necessarily attached to my community, because as soon as you do that, you open the door to make connections with 100 other people. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've been almost an hour and 20 minutes. That was fun.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I have a tendency to talk too much.
Don't apologize. I will tell you right now that if my show goes more than an hour, we've had a lot of fun. So you don't need to worry one bit. That was just great. But so any final tips or anything that you didn't touch on that you wanted to? Or if anybody has any questions for AP, throw them in the comments. I know we've had a few. Anything? How about what's on your wish list? I know you're on a budget, but what's the next thing that you'd love to pick up, or where are you heading with your prep?
I want, this is kind of silly. I want some cast iron cookware because that did accidentally get left in Oklahoma.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, I would like some more cast iron cookware. So that's first step on my wish list. Bigger items on the wish list, I would like an Excalibur food dehydrator.
Oh, okay. If Becky's still listening, she knows that I would also like one of those.
But I'll probably end up getting a Nesco because it's only like $60.
Yes, I get it. I do.
But even for me, $60 is kind of, expensive right now. So, but yeah, the Excalibur, of course, yeah.
No, that would be great. Yeah. And I'd love to have a freeze dryer someday.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
That's like
in an apartment, it's kind of, I can't do that.
Yeah, whatever. And just everything.
But I hope I won't be in an apartment forever, hopefully. So.
you have plans or hopefully to work your way or
That's the goal, is to slowly just kind of get back on our feet and work our way up. And, maybe next we'll have a 2-bedroom apartment, then maybe maybe a smaller house. And then eventually I would like to have my own place where I can have a garden outdoors. And that's one thing I want to, is one of the indoor gardening systems, one of the aero gardens.
So I heard you mention that, and you want to grow lettuce, right?
I do.
And normally I try not to talk too much. I like but I just wanted to share it. Look at Kratky if you haven't looked at it yet. Kratky.
Okay.
So I'm in a little tiny office here, and those tough totes you can get at Home Depot. They're black with So I grew, can't remember if it was 16 or 20 heads of lettuce in one of those tubs.
Nice.
All I had was a grow light. There's no circulation. All you do is you put the nutrient in the water, and the roots chase the water. And as long as you have, so simple. You could do
it. Basically an aero garden, just not as expensive, right?
Yes. I think I did a video on it. And if I can find it, I'll send it to you.
I'll have to look for that.
You could do it cheap. I think it made it to YouTube. It was on Odyssey for sure. But if not, anyway, I'll dig it up.
I did a live a couple weeks ago with Family Man Prepper, where he just talked all about indoor gardening.
Okay.
That's all he talks about. And because that's what he's working on with his family in Colorado. And being in an apartment, I had asked him questions. So we decided to do a live, and so that was cool.
That's awesome. So how do people find you, AP?
I am on Instagram under the Apartment Prepper, and I am on YouTube under Apartment Prepper. I think it's just Apartment Prepper. Anyway, I also have a Twitter, but I'm not there very often. And, I have Pinterest, but I'm not there very often either. Those are just, idea things. So mainly YouTube and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have you back someday if you'd like to come back.
I have enjoyed myself. Thank you so much. I would love to.
This was fun. Yeah, no problem. And if you want to hang in the background for just a second, I'll close up and I'll be back with you. Okay, cool. Thanks, AP.
Thanks, y'all.
Well, guys, that was a killer interview. You just never know. When you reach out to somebody new, you always know it's going to be a good interview, but you never know how great of an interview it's going to be. So AP brought a lot to the table, and I appreciate it. I just got to say thank you one more time. And for all of you guys, man, we had a great crowd in here tonight. It was awesome. What else can I say? Whenever we have that good of an interview, it just makes me smile. So thanks for everybody who dropped in tonight. Thursday evening, we'll have a live show. We'll find out what it's going to be a little later on this week. Again, back on Saturday, and then probably a pre-recorded on Sunday. So guys, I tell you this all the time, especially in the summer, you guys could spend your time anywhere, and you choose to come and hang out with me in the workshop. So thank you very much. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.